What if the greatest war you'll ever fight is waged not on a battlefield, but in the absolute, deafening silence of your own mind? Ever wondered why your effort feels like running in quicksand? Why you pour every ounce of energy into your day, only to end it feeling drained, scattered, and no closer to the person you want to be? You live in a state of perpetual low-grade emergency. Your phone buzzes, a notification flashes, an email screams for your attention. Your mind is a crowded marketplace, with 1,000 voices shouting, haggling, and demanding a piece of you. You are constantly connected, yet you feel profoundly disconnected from your own core, from your own power. There's a hum of anxiety that follows you from the moment you wake up to the restless moments before you fall asleep. It's the background noise of your life. It's the feeling of being busy but not productive. The feeling of moving but not advancing. You consume endless content, listen to podcasts, watch videos, all promising the secret, the hack, the one thing you're missing. Yet the chaos inside only grows louder. The promises fade, and you're left alone again with that familiar, hollow ache. The ache of unfulfilled potential. The quiet terror that this is all there is. That this scattered, reactive, and overwhelmed version of you is the final draft. You feel it, don't you? The leash around your neck pulled by 1,000 different masters, the expectations of others, the ghosts of your past failures, the fear of a future you can't control. Your focus is fractured into 1,000,000 tiny shards, and your willpower, that precious, finite resource, is bled dry by 1,000 tiny cuts every single day. You're fighting a war on 100 fronts, and you're losing all of them. This isn't living, it's surviving. It's being dragged along by the current of a world designed to keep you distracted, weak, and compliant. But what if I told you there is a way to cut the strings? A way to silence the noise, not just for a moment of peace, but to forge that silence into a weapon. This isn't about a weekend retreat or a 5-minute meditation app. This is a rebellion, a 40-day declaration of war against the chaos that has ruled your life. We are going to embark on a journey into the heart of that silence, to dismantle the weak, scattered self you've become, and to build from the ground up a version of you that is unrecognizable, a version that operates from a core of unshakable calm, clarity, and dangerous power. This is the path to conquering your own mind, to finding an inner peace so profound that the world's chaos can't even touch it. This is how you reclaim your soul. The first truth you must accept, the one that will hook into your mind and never let go, is this: the noise is not your enemy. The distractions are not your enemy. Your phone, your job, the demands of the world, they are merely symptoms of the real disease. The true enemy, the one you've been avoiding your entire life, is your own undisciplined mind. The external chaos you despise is a perfect mirror of the internal chaos you tolerate. You blame the world for your lack of focus, but the truth is, you have trained your mind to crave distraction. You have conditioned it to flee from the discomfort of a single, focused thought. You have taught it that the empty space of silence is something to be feared, something to be filled at all costs. This 40-day journey is about reversing that training. It's about putting your mind in a crucible, an empty room where it has nowhere to run and no one to blame but itself. The first few days will be hell. That is a promise. It's the withdrawal. But on the other side of that fire is not just peace. It is power. The kind of power that comes from being the sole commander of your own attention. The kind of power that allows you to think, to plan, to create, to be with an intensity that will terrify your old self. This is your first win, the realization that the battlefield was never out there. It has always been and will always be inside. And silence is the arena where you finally turn and face the beast. So the journey begins. The first gate you must pass through is the gate of withdrawal. Think of it as the first week, the great severance. This is where you intentionally cut the inputs, Not just the obvious ones like social media or constant news feeds. This is deeper. It's the background music you use to fill the space. It's the podcast you listen to on your commute just to avoid your own thoughts. It's the mindless television you watch not for entertainment but for sedation. For 40 days, you commit to starving your mind of this junk food. You commit to periods of absolute intentional silence. It doesn't mean you stop speaking to your family or quit your job. It means you carve out sacred, non-negotiable blocks of time where the only input is reality itself, unfiltered. Your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the thoughts bubbling up from the deep. The first day is a shock to the system. The mind, like a spoiled child denied its candy, throws a tantrum. It screams for a fix. You'll feel a phantom vibration in your pocket where your phone used to be. You'll feel an almost unbearable itch to check something, to read something, to listen to something. This is the addiction revealing itself. Your brain's dopamine pathways, so accustomed to the constant drip feed of novelty and validation, are now running dry. The silence will feel loud, aggressive, even painful. It will amplify the tinnitus of your anxiety. Every worry, every insecurity, every item on your to-do list will rush into the vacuum, swirling like a hurricane. You will be tempted 1,000 times to break, to just put on some music, to just scroll for 5 minutes. This is the first test of the warrior. You must hold the line. You must sit in the fire. Your only task is to observe the chaos without becoming it, to watch the storm of your own mind and recognize, I am not the storm. I am the sky watching the storm. By the third or fourth day, something shifts. The initial, frantic energy begins to subside, replaced by a deeper, more insidious form of discomfort. This is the arrival of boredom, true, profound boredom. We have been conditioned to see boredom as a failure, a state to be vanquished at all costs. But in this journey, boredom is a sacred space. It is the soil from which creativity and self-discovery grow. When the mind is no longer entertained by 1,000 external sources, it is forced to do something it hasn't done in years, entertain itself. It begins to dig. It begins to wander down old, forgotten corridors of memory. Faces from your past will appear. Conversations from a decade ago will replay with crystal clarity. Old regrets and dormant dreams will surface, uninvited. This is not a bug, it is a feature of the process. The silence is forcing a system flush. It's bringing all the buried junk to the surface so it can finally be seen, processed, and discarded. Your job is not to engage with every thought, but to let them pass like clouds. You are the mountain, solid and unmoving, as the weather of your mind rages around you. This first week is not about finding answers. It is about learning to endure the questions. It is about building the mental muscle of stillness. It is the forging of your inner citadel, brick by painful brick. As you cross the threshold into the second week, the nature of the battle changes. The initial shock of withdrawal has passed, and the screaming for distraction has quieted to a dull roar. Now, you enter the purge. This is the heart of the journey. This is where you come face to face with the architects of your own suffering. The silence is no longer just empty, it's populated. Populated by the ghosts you've been running from your entire life. This is the period of shadow work, the confrontation with the parts of yourself you have denied, repressed, and disowned. The first ghost to materialize is the inner critic. You know this voice intimately. It's the one that whispers your deepest insecurities right when you're about to take a risk. It's the one that replays your failures on a loop, reminding you that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy. In the noise of everyday life, you can drown this voice out. You can distract yourself with work, with entertainment, with the approval of others. But in the silence, there is nowhere for it to hide. It has the microphone, and you are its captive audience. For days, this voice will torment you. It will dissect your flaws with surgical precision. It will use your own memories as weapons against you. The temptation is to fight it, to argue with it, to try and reason with it. This is a trap. Arguing with the inner critic only gives it more power. You are feeding the demon. The Stoic approach, the warrior's approach, is different. It is to observe it with a kind of detached curiosity. You don't fuse with the voice, you study it. Where did it come from? Whose words is it echoing? A parent, a teacher, a childhood bully. You begin to realize this voice is not you. It is a program, a recording that was installed in your mind long ago, and it has been running on autopilot ever since. In the silence, you learn to see it for what it is, a scared, malfunctioning part of your own psyche trying to protect you from future pain by keeping you small. By simply observing it without judgment day after day, its power begins to wane. You are not killing it. You are integrating it. You are letting it speak, and you are choosing not to believe it. This is an act of radical self-reclamation. Next to emerge from the shadows is the ghost of regret, the endless, torturous loop of what if and if only. What if I had taken that job? What if I hadn't ended that relationship? If only I had said this instead of that. Regret is a poison that anchors you to a past you cannot change. It drains your present energy and clouds your future vision. In the silence, these regrets will play out like movies in your mind. You will feel the sting of past mistakes as if they were happening right now. The warrior's task here is not to wish the past were different, but to accept it completely. The Stoics taught the concept of amor fati asterisk, a love of one's fate. This doesn't mean you have to like your past mistakes. It means you accept that they happened, and that they were necessary ingredients in the person you are today. You sit with the regret. You allow yourself to feel the pain of it fully and without distraction, and then you ask a different question. Not why did this happen to me, but what did this teach me? You reframe the failure not as an indictment of your character, but as a lesson. A brutal, painful, but necessary lesson. That mistake taught you about your own weaknesses. That failed relationship taught you what you truly need. You begin to see your past not as a chain of failures, but as a curriculum. A training ground that forged your resilience, your wisdom, your empathy. In the silence, you are not erasing the past. You are metabolizing it. You are extracting the nutrients of wisdom from the poison of regret, and you are using it to fuel your forward momentum. Finally, the most formidable monster arrives, the hydra of future anxiety. This is the ceaseless catastrophizing about what might go wrong, the endless planning for 1,000 unlikely disasters, the mental rehearsals of arguments that will never happen. Anxiety lives in the future, a future that does not exist. It steals the peace and power of the only moment that is real, the present. In the silence, with no external problems to solve, the mind turns to inventing them. It will construct elaborate, terrifying scenarios about your health, your finances, your relationships. Here, the warrior deploys the most powerful weapon in the Stoic arsenal, the dichotomy of control. You learn to relentlessly, ruthlessly separate what is within your control from what is not. Can you control the economy? No. Can you control whether someone likes you? No. Can you control a future health diagnosis? No. What can you control? Your thoughts in this moment, your actions in this moment, your character in this moment. That's it. That is the entirety of your kingdom. Day after day in the silence, you practice this sorting. A fearful thought arises. What if I lose my job? You stop. You dissect it. The company's performance. Not in my control. My boss's mood. Not in my control. The quality of my work today. My attitude today. My efforts to learn new skills today. Entirely within my control. You release your grip on the uncontrollable and you pour all of your focused energy into the controllable. This is not a passive resignation. It is an aggressive focusing of power. You stop wasting energy on phantoms and you concentrate it on the real. The anxiety doesn't vanish overnight, but it begins to starve. It has no future to feed on because you are relentlessly pulling your attention back to the now. This second phase, this purge, is the gutting of the old house. It's messy, it's painful, and it's absolutely necessary. You are clearing the debris to make way for a new foundation. You are facing your demons not to be destroyed by them, but to learn their names and take back the power you gave them. As you move into the third week, a profound shift occurs. The storm has passed. The purge has left the inner landscape raw and empty, but for the first time it is a clean emptiness. It is not the void of lack, but the space of potential. This is the phase of reconstruction. The silence is no longer an adversary to be endured. It becomes a canvas on which to create. The mind, having been starved of external noise and cleansed of its internal ghosts, begins to operate in a new way. The first gift of this new silence is clarity. Without the constant chatter of opinions, anxieties, and distractions, you begin to hear a much quieter, more profound voice. Some call it intuition. Some call it the true self. The Stoics might have called it the guiding reason, the logos asterisk. It's the part of you that has always known what you want, what your values are, what your purpose is. It has been there all along, but its whisper was drowned out by the shouting of the world and your own inner turmoil. Now in the stillness, you can hear it. You start to see your life with a startling, almost uncomfortable clarity. You see the habits that have been holding you back. You see the relationships that are draining your energy. You see the goals you've been chasing that aren't actually your own, but were prescribed to you by society, by family, by your own ego. This clarity is not always pleasant. It demands change. It illuminates the gap between the person you are and the person you could be. But it is not a judgmental clarity. It is a compassionate, guiding light. It simply shows you the path. With this newfound clarity, you begin to rebuild your inner world based on a new architecture. You are no longer reacting to life, you are consciously designing it. You use the silence to define your own code, your own non-negotiable principles. What does it mean for you to live a good life? What are the virtues you want to embody? Integrity, courage, discipline, compassion. You write them down, you meditate on them. You make them the new load-bearing walls of your identity. This is not about abstract philosophy. It's about creating a practical internal compass that will guide your every decision when you return to the world of noise. When faced with a choice, you will no longer ask, "What is easy?" or "What do others want me to do?" You will ask, "What does my code demand of me?" This phase is also where true creativity is born. Boredom, which was once your tormentor, now becomes your muse. The mind, no longer a passive consumer of information, becomes an active generator of ideas. Solutions to problems you've been wrestling with for years will suddenly appear, fully formed. New projects, new artistic visions, new business ideas will bubble up from the depths. This is because your brain is finally able to access its own deep processing power. It is making novel connections between disparate ideas, a process that is impossible when it is constantly reacting to external stimuli. You are tapping into a wellspring of insight that was always there, hidden beneath the surface of your distracted mind. You will find your relationship with yourself changing. You will learn to enjoy your own company. The need for external validation begins to fall away, replaced by a quiet, solid sense of self-worth. This is not arrogance or ego. It is a deep, abiding confidence that comes from having faced your own demons and survived. It comes from knowing that your peace is not dependent on external conditions, but is generated from within. You are building an inner fortress, a citadel of calm that is impervious to the chaos of the world. You are becoming the source of your own stability. This reconstruction is a slow, deliberate process. It is the work of a master craftsman laying each brick with intention and care. You are not just changing your habits, you are upgrading your operating system. You are moving from a life of frantic reaction to a life of profound intention. The silence has transformed from a place of torment into a sanctuary, a workshop, a command center. You are no longer the victim of your own mind. You are its master. And from this place of mastery, You are beginning to forge a self that is not just improved, but fundamentally new. A self that is strong, centered, and ready for anything. We've walked through the fire of the initial withdrawal, enduring the mind's tantrum as we starved it of its usual distractions. We've journeyed into the shadows to face the ghosts of the inner critic, regret, and anxiety, learning not to fight them but to disarm them with observation and stoic wisdom. We have seen how silence isn't an absence but a presence, a forge where the old, weak self is burned away. But this is just clearing the battlefield. This is just melting down the old, rusted metal. Now we are in the process of reconstruction, using the pristine clarity of silence to forge the weapons and armor of a new warrior. We are building an inner citadel, defining our code, and tapping into a power that comes from within. But what happens when the 40 days are over? How do you take this silent warrior, this newly forged self, back into the deafening chaos of the world without losing everything you've gained? That is the final and most crucial stage of this transformation. Think about it. When was the last time you truly felt in command of your own attention, not for a fleeting moment, but as your default state of being? When was the last time you felt a peace so deep that another person's negativity or a stressful event was just weather passing by, unable to shake the mountain that is you? This is not a fantasy. It is the state we are building towards. The final 10 days of our journey are not about staying in the silence, but about learning to carry the silence with you. The final leg of this 40-day odyssey, from day 36 to day 40, is the phase of integration. This is the warrior's return from the mountain. It is the most delicate and most important part of the process. Forging a powerful sword in a hidden cave is one thing. Wielding it effectively in the chaos of battle is another entirely. The goal was never to become a hermit, permanently detached from the world. The goal was to become a master within the world, a force of calm and order in the midst of chaos. The first step of integration is to reintroduce the world's inputs, but this time on your terms. You are no longer a passive consumer, you are a conscious gatekeeper. You don't just turn your phone back on and let the floodgates open. You design your relationship with it. You decide when and how you will engage. Notifications remain off. You schedule specific, limited times to check email and social media, rather than letting them interrupt you at will. You treat your attention as the sacred, precious resource it is. You are now the bouncer at the door of your own mind, and you do not let every stray thought or digital demand wander in. You practice what can be called a mental flinch. Through your time in silence, you have become exquisitely sensitive to the feeling of being pulled off-center. You can now feel the subtle internal shift that happens just before you react with anger, or get lost in anxiety, or fall into a spiral of negative self-talk. That feeling is your new alarm system. The moment you feel that flinch, you pause. You take a breath. You have created a space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your power. In that space you choose. Do I react with my old programming, or do I respond from my new code? Do I let this external event dictate my internal state, or do I maintain the peace of my inner citadel? This practice, repeated hundreds of times a day, is how you bring the silence into the noise. Your interactions with other people will transform. Because you have spent weeks listening to the deepest parts of yourself, you will become a masterful listener to others. Most people don't listen. They just wait for their turn to talk, their minds racing with their own agenda. But you, having cultivated stillness, can offer the rare gift of your full, undivided presence. You listen not just to the words, but to the emotions beneath them. You radiate a calm that can de-escalate conflict and create genuine connection. People will feel seen and heard by you in a way they rarely experience. They won't know why, but they will be drawn to the quiet strength you exude. You will speak less, but your words will carry more weight because they will come from a place of clarity and intention, not nervous energy. You must also establish non-negotiable rituals to protect your inner peace. The 40 days were a boot camp, but the war is lifelong. This means establishing a daily practice of silence. It may not be for hours, but it must be consistent. 15, 20, 30 minutes every single morning before you engage with the world, you return to the stillness. You reconnect with your core. You check in with your guiding principles. This is your daily tune-up. It's how you reinforce the walls of your inner fortress and ensure that the cracks of chaos don't begin to form again. This daily practice is not a chore. It is an act of self-preservation. It is the sharpening of your sword. On the 40th day, you are not the same person who began this journey. The person who started was a slave to chaos, a leaf in the wind, their inner state dictated by the whims of the external world. The person who emerges is a sovereign, a ruler of their own inner kingdom. You have faced your own mind in its rawest form and have not been broken. You have stared into the abyss of your own fears and found it empty. You have learned that silence is not an absence of sound, but the presence of self. The change will be palpable not just to you, but to everyone around you. There will be a new stillness in your eyes, a new deliberation in your movements, a new resonance in your voice. You will have become unrecognizable to your former self, and to those who only knew the old, scattered you. This isn't about becoming alpha in the superficial sense of dominance and aggression. This is about embodying a deeper, more profound power, the power of self-mastery, the power that comes from being undisturbable, the dangerous power of a mind that is whole, focused, and free. This journey is not a one-time fix. It is the beginning of a new way of life. It is a rebellion that you must choose to continue every single day. The world will never stop screaming for your attention. The forces of distraction and mediocrity will always be there, trying to pull you back into the comfortable numbness of chaos. They will offer you endless reasons to abandon your practice, to forget the lessons of the silence, to return to being a slave. The 40 days are over, but the path of the warrior has just begun. The question is not whether you can survive the world's noise. The question is whether you will carry your hard-won silence into it as a shield and a light. The world doesn't need another distracted, anxious soul. It needs centered, powerful individuals who can bring order to the chaos, starting with the space between their own two ears. The path is laid out before you. It begins with a single moment of decision, a single commitment to turn and face the noise within. The version of you that has mastered their mind, that moves through the world with unshakable purpose and inner peace, is not a distant dream. It is a potential waiting to be forged in the fires of your own silent rebellion. The world will keep shouting. Let it. The most powerful response has always been and will always be a warrior's silence. What will you discover waiting for you in yours?